Good Wednesday afternoon, Houston. I'm KHOU 11 meteorologist Kim Castro, bringing you a brand new tropical update. I want you to keep an eye on this cluster of storms, especially today. Throughout the afternoon and evening, we're going to have a little better understanding as to if this is going to track further towards land or move a little bit further south towards water and gain more organization. I'm going to tell you what I'm seeing right now. Not a big difference for what we saw last night. So we're still looking at a tropical wave, means it doesn't have organization. It's got a lot of energy. I mean, you could see its convective field stretches from the panhandle of Florida all the way into New Orleans and beyond that off the coast of central Louisiana. So it's got energy, but it would need to be a little closer to the center of circulation in order to have better organization, and right now we're just not seeing that. It is moving due west at this point at 12 miles an hour, and so for that reason the National Hurricane Center has not changed the probability of this becoming organized and developing into a tropical storm. It sits at 40% again as of this afternoon. If it does become organized, it would become Tropical Storm Dexter, but regardless, it's still going to have implications for the Gulf Coast, and that includes us. So let me show you what we're looking at here. So that center of circulation is over Panama City. Again, it's not organized, it's not defined because of the convective field that is trailing well ahead of it. Under these conditions, scraping along the coastline, interacting with a lot of land, the spaghetti plots are pushing this into New Orleans and then having it push due north. That would mean that a lot of the moisture is used up in Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. Notice there are a couple of lone spaghetti plot models that want to push this a little further west, which is a possibility, but it's not the likelihood at this point. By the way, these different spaghetti plot models take a little perturbation. So they take an atmospheric condition like the wind, the moisture, the position, and alter it a little bit. Because the atmosphere is so variable, it needs to take into account all these minute changes and put out different probabilities. Now, the ones you see here in black, these are the more prominent models, and these have a really good consensus. So those are the ones that we really rely on. Notice that low is not only going to be interacting with land, it's also going to be interacting with some wind shear. So that would break the storm apart a little bit faster. So that's why I think the National Hurricane Center is not jumping at increasing the probability of organization just yet. So as it continues through the Gulf Coast today, tomorrow, and especially into Friday, that's when it's expected to run into a little bit more of that horizontal wind shear that would prevent for the vertical development of the storm. So that's another kind of variable in there that works against the storm, but something that works in its favor is how hot those sea surface temperatures are. For tropical development, you just need water temps to be at about 80 degrees. We are at about 90 degrees, especially as we start pushing into Louisiana. So from New Orleans all the way to almost southeast Texas, that water is hot, boiling, and that is exactly what these storms like to feed on. And regardless if it becomes a named organized storm or not, it's a storm nonetheless, and it's in the Gulf and it's going to have a lot of energy. So I'm going to show you the moisture potential here. So New Orleans gets hit with some rain starting early tomorrow, then again throughout the afternoon, pushing into Lafayette, and then by Friday, overnight Thursday into Friday, that's when a lot of that moisture starts getting into Houston. For now, the biggest flood threat is going to be for Louisiana. So that is a threat level 3, moderate on the 1 to 4 scale. I know moderate doesn't seem like a very, concerning word. However, it's almost at the highest category. So that is something to note. As we go further west, the threat drops off. So into southeast Texas, Chambers County, Liberty County, we're under a threat level 2, slight risk. And then Houston proper, so this is Harris County now, is under the lowest threat, a 1 on the 1 to 4 scale. Regardless, there could be those isolated areas that pick up a quick, impactful 2, 3, maybe even 4 inches of rainfall. Overall, the models are giving us really manageable rain. I mean, the green that you see on the map there for downtown, for most of Harris County, is half an inch at best. But there are those pockets that could pick up the 1 inch, the 2 inch, the 3, and in that deeper red, maybe 4. And so those would give us isolated high water and an isolated flood risk as well. So as we start to see the system develop or not develop, we'll have a better understanding as to where it's going to turn and if it's going to break apart enough before it starts tracking a little too close towards us. Live look right now, though, from the gateway of our tropical systems is Galveston, and it's really calm. It's nice, beautiful, mild day ahead. So you don't have to worry about any rain disruptions today. In fact, we are dry everywhere. 89 degrees right now for the island. Herman Park looks really beautiful too. A couple fair weather clouds there, sitting at 92. So we're in the upper 80s to low 90s with a little bit of a haze. So some Saharan dust is moving in this afternoon, and it'll continue to build in even into tomorrow. And that is what is keeping our skies a little bit milky, and it's also what is suppressing some of the rain potential for today. So describing today in 2 words, hot and hazy. High temperature for Gulf Crest, 97. Same thing for East Haven and for Montrose. If you live in the Heights, you're looking at a high of 96. If you live in Dyersdale, you're looking at a high of 96 as well. Cypress will make it to 96. Tomball will make it to 95. Mid-90s in Harris County. A couple of cooler spots, 94. I say that relatively speaking. 94 for Huntsville. Baytown makes it up to 92, and then Galveston stays in the 80s for the actual air temperature. However, the heat index is going to be closer to 106. So it is very humid out there in addition to it being really hot. Tomorrow is going to be another day where you don't have to track showers, and then we start seeing the tropical moisture get a little closer to us, bringing us our highest rain chance on Friday. And I'll show you in greater detail the timing of that, but it's a 70% chance. We'll have some lingering storms even into early Saturday, so think about any plans that you had in the books for Friday into Saturday. You might have to adjust that. So here's the timing. Overnight Thursday into Friday, that's the snapshot at 2 o'clock. You'll see the main center of circulation is going to be in Louisiana. However, the counterclockwise flow from that low is going to sling in moisture right here to Houston. So we'll start to see some heavier downpours while we're sleeping and more moisture working its way from Galveston up the Gulf Freeway towards downtown and then eventually pushing off towards 290. But now we're looking at a snapshot at 7 o'clock in the evening. So this could be a day it's kind of a mess from morning to afternoon and to our nighttime plan. So that's going to be something that we monitor. If we get a little bit of a training storm situation, like one area that gets a repeated round of rain, one thunderstorm after another, then that would be an area that gets a little bit too much accumulation and not enough drainage time. So we'll keep an eye on that for Friday. Saturday, again, lingering moisture is possible, I think, mainly for the first part of our Saturday plans. I think Saturday evening should be fine. And then Sunday looks really good. So if you want to start making alterations and perhaps penciling in your outdoor plans for Sunday, I think that is approved by me. 2 thumbs up for that plan. All in all, it's going to be the end of the work week that we really have to monitor for that potential tropical moisture moving in, whether it's a system that gets a name or not. It's kind of irrelevant. I mean, any moisture that has a low attached to it that's in the Gulf is something that grabs our interest and something we need to keep in mind as we go through the next few days. Today's plans are fine. It's hot and humid and hazy. That's it, 97. Tomorrow, for the most part, is fine. I wouldn't be surprised, by the way, if the models start putting out a little moisture here by late afternoon. So maybe we increase Thursday's rain chance to 20%, but that's it. So far, I'm keeping it off the forecast, but don't be surprised if later on, when our chief meteorologist David Paul comes in, he sees something on the future track models that give us a 20% chance. That's a possibility. Friday and Saturday, those are our rainy days. I think Friday more so than anything. That's going to be a day that we watch constantly, morning, afternoon, and evening. And then that's it. So Sunday, we start to dry up, and as we start to dry up, we lose that rain-cooled air. You'll notice the temperatures when we have those high rain chances, upper 80s to right around 90 degrees. Next week, we'll crank up the heat. Back up into the upper 90s we go, dropping off those rain chances. All right, thank you so much for joining us on this live stream. Again, it is critical that you get updates, especially once we have something in the tropics. So our next newscast is 4 o'clock with Pat Kavlin, and then our Chief Meteorologist David Paul will guide you through the forecast at 5, 6, and 10 p.m. We'll see you then.